Welcome everyone, my name is Rigel, and today I want to talk about one game that happened during match day 1 at the FIFA World Cup 2026, and that is Spain 0, Cape Verde 0. Now, that result on its own is already shocking, considering just how far apart these two are. You can see here Spain is second in the FIFA rankings, while Cape Verde was 67th. It hasn't officially updated yet, but if you check the kind of preliminary updates on the FIFA website, you'll see that they've already risen 3 places to 64th from this one draw alone. And if you think about it even more, it becomes all the more astounding because this is a nation at his very first World Cup, on his very first match, and they have to play what is widely considered to be a huge favorite to win the whole damn tournament, and they held them to a draw. That is no easy feat, and I think in this video I'm going to try to delve into why I think that worked, and what Cape Verde's perspective looks like going forward in the next few group stage matches, and possibly beyond. But before we get into how Cape Verde did this, let's talk about the Spanish perspective. I'm not going to spend as much time on this because you will have probably seen a lot of videos talking about how Spain failed, how Luis de la Fuente failed, but yeah, I will talk about this very briefly. But you know, if you want a more detailed breakdown of how that worked and how, well, as a matter of fact, it didn't work for Spain, just go watch some other football YouTubers. I think they will have a lot more to say about that. You know, they watch a lot more of the Spanish national team than I do, so yeah. Let's start with Spain. Nevertheless, the first question that everyone will have on their mind: are they cooked? Are they now ruled out of the winning conversation? No, absolutely not. Hell, last World Cup, the first game that was played by Argentina, they lost to Saudi Arabia 2-0, and they went on to win the whole thing. Some countries have a slower start at the World Cup, and that's fine. The thing that Luis de la Fuente has to take out of this is that he needs to learn to adapt. He needs to learn to not overlook any opponents regardless of where they come from. But first, before we talk about that, let's talk about some fun statistics that I found. This is courtesy of OptaJoe on Twitter. They found that Oyarzabal, who is, you know, widely considered as one of the best players on the national team and honestly on the planet in general, Oyarzabal, he had a 6.2 according to FODMob. But actually, some statistics that was, you know, presented by OptaJoe actually found that he did not touch the ball at all in the first 30 minutes of the game. Not at all. Like, it is an insane statistic to have to think about in that way, and you know, it just goes to show that he was just very much on the sideline for the first half an hour, you know, after which he did start coming into the fray. But that is a crazy statistic regardless, you know, for a player of the magnitude that is Oyarzabal. Later on in the game, you did also have the introduction of Lamine Yamal and Nico Williams, and I would say that given their recent injuries, you know, Luis de la Fuente really did not want to use them. And I think what it shows is that near the end of the game, he was getting desperate. I think what he showed from this not starting Lamine Yamal, not starting Nico Williams, I think what he showed here was this severe underestimation of Cape Verde as a national team, because you know, we did all see the game the night before where Germany destroyed Curacao 7-1, and I presume Luis de la Fuente just didn't really read up about Cape Verde and thought they would be able to run over them 3, 4, 5 goals in the first half, and then maybe have Lamine Yamal play a little bit for fun or something like that. But no, they didn't do that. They defended very valiantly, and as a result, I think bringing on Lamine Yamal and Nico Williams, even though they really didn't want to do that in this game, I think it was a sign of frustration and a sign of desperation from Luis de la Fuente. And ultimately, this all started from the fact that he really underestimated Cape Verde as a national team. Now, before I get into specific players on the Cape Verdean national team that made this result possible, I think it's important to stress that the result means different things to different sides. If you're neutral, I think you're going to watch on with quite a bit of interest, obviously. It's a first-time country at the World Cup tying with Spain. But ultimately, like I mentioned earlier, I do not think that Spain should be panicking about this. I don't think that Spain is immediately cooked, and that they're just that a win at the World Cup is now suddenly out of reach. No, I don't think that's the case. You can just interpret this as sort of a slow start again, but it also shows that they really need to rely on Lamine Yamal to really be that star factor, that X factor for the team to really hope to do something at later stages at this World Cup. Because if they play this way against France, France is going to win. Like Mbappe, is obviously going to, excel over most of the Spanish side, sans Lamine Yamal. Let's be honest here. So, I think for Spain, this is an opportunity to really kind of rethink their strategy, maybe kind of adjust things here and there. Think of, maybe just bringing on Lamine Yamal earlier on, Nico Williams earlier on. Although I'll be honest, I don't think Nico Williams really made that much of a difference in this match, if I'm being honest. But for Spain, that's what it means. It's not disaster. It's not the end of the world. They can still win the World Cup, but they really have to be careful about their strategy going forward. But for Cape Verde, this is a massive win. Honestly, a lot of Cape Verdeans and Cape Verdean Americans were celebrating this as if they had won, because this is a win. This is a massive result. They had played some European sides before, but before this, they were chiefly just playing in Africa. They were playing at AFCON, even though ironically they didn't qualify for the 2025 AFCON. They just had an absolute stinker of a qualifying period. But in the World Cup qualifying, they were playing again. It's African countries. They battled to a 1-0 victory against Cameroon. That goal was scored by Dylan Livramento, who I'm going to get to later on. But that's all I'm really going to say about Spain, because ultimately I want this video to be about Cape Verde and about how they managed to do this despite all the odds against them, despite everything saying that, they're going to get run over by Spain 9-0 or something like that. No, that is ridiculous. And to start off with, I think it's important to examine where they are in the sort of grand scheme of African football vis-a-vis some of the other debutants at the World Cup, right? They are not Curacao. With respect, Curacao, they have played, I'm just going to be honest here, very much easier opponents. They are a team that really struggles to score. They played Jamaica in Kingston, and it was a 0-0 at the end. They didn't even score. They had to play at home in Willemstad against Jamaica to actually get that 2-0 win. But ultimately, the pathway that Curacao took to get to the World Cup was just a lot easier, I think, than the Cape Verdean one, where they had to beat Cameroon for starters, and then they had to also beat all the other countries in their group, or at least get a resounding result against them. Real ones will remember Cape Verde 3-3 Libya, which I'm actually going to get to later on in this. But I think Cape Verde just went through a much tougher path to qualify here. And again, like Curacao, actually, they didn't qualify for any sort of playoff. They came here, qualified directly top of their group, simple as, right? So I think it's a mistake for anyone, Spain or otherwise, to really underestimate this side, because they've just not played that many great sides across the years, to warrant them a higher ranking in the FIFA rankings, and hopefully this World Cup will change that. So let's get into some stats that we've got again from Opta Joe, on Twitter. I'm gonna throw some screenshots up right now. This one that was posted just today, as of making this video. They actually rank first in total high intensity pressure, but they actually rank 48 for high pressure in the third. In the final third. So what this means is that they have applied a lot of pressure basically on the Spanish side to really defend valiantly, but they didn't really have much going forward and going on the attack against Spain. Obviously, I think if you watch the match, you will be able to concur with that. And another thing that Opta Joe posted that was actually kind of insane is that they committed throughout the game one foul. In fact, I think we might be able to see this here on Font Mob. You can see here they both got one yellow card. There's things like that, but here it is. You can see here disciplined fouls committed, 1, whereas Spain committed 10 fouls in the game. And I think it's clear then that two things. One, it was actually Spain that was desperate to really actually do something in this game, whereas Cape Verde were very calm, cool, and collected. They had a strict routine that they were going to follow in terms of how they were going to defend, how they were going to prevent the opposition from getting the ball and or just getting the ball into the box. They were very clean with a lot of their tackles and such. And so yeah, I think it is a very good showing of discipline, but obviously you can also argue there weren't a lot of chances that where they needed to really tackle or commit fouls to begin with. So yeah, it is a incredible statistic, and this is the lowest amount of fouls that has been committed in a World Cup game since 1966, which is absolutely insane. That is 60 years ago? Oh my goodness. So yeah, it is an incredible statistic for Cape Verde of all countries to have achieved in this game. But of course, we cannot go on further in this video without talking about the man of the match, Vozinha, also known as. Actually, it doesn't show his name here. Yeah, whatever. We just know him as Vozinha. All right. He is 40 years old, and he plays in Chaves, which is a second division team in Portugal, I believe. And look, we've all seen the compilation at this point, the amount of saves that he made. I will talk about the quality of the saves that he did make, but we all saw the match. We all saw how many saves he did make. They weren't difficult saves, but I'll get back onto that a little bit. He did say after the match that his grandparents died, and vozinha literally means little grandmother, because he was mostly raised by his grandparents, and he got that nickname off of other people he was playing with when he was a child. So vozinha literally means little grandmother, but he has taken up that nickname with stride, and now that is his official accolade, just like how that one random Egyptian player has the nickname Trezeguet, even though his real name has nothing to do with French whatsoever. But that's neither here nor there. Let's get back to this game. Vozinha, obviously, he made some really good saves. You can see, obviously, he's a goalkeeper, so his heat map is going to be around there. But Goals conceded 0, saves 7. XGOT faced 1.45, goals prevented 1.45. Diving save 4, saves inside box 6. 0 punches, 10 throws, 3 high claims, 15 recoveries. Ground duels 1, aerial duels 1 out of 1. I mean, obviously, that statistic is probably going to change as we get further into the World Cup, but that is still such an impressive result. And, we talked about the story of him growing up with his grandparents, who apparently passed away a few years ago. He also mentioned that he couldn't get his mother to show up at the match as well because basically the visa fees were too expensive. And actually, we just got news like a day or two ago that the U.S. State Department has now personally reached out to help. And now Vozinha's mother will likely be able to watch Vozinha play in the match against Uruguay. So that will be lovely. But again, I don't want to be putting too much praise on the U.S. State Department and on Marco Rubio, because this was a problem when they started in the first place. I don't think they should be praised too much for just fixing their own problems that they themselves created. So yeah, it's a good story that his mother is finally able to watch him play in person against Uruguay, but yeah, I don't want to be praising the U.S. State Department for this because, again, they created this problem. They should have solved it in the first place, or it should not have existed in the first place. But, actually, there's one more thing I want to talk about with Vozinha and why he was so adept at saving all of these shots that came from all sorts of different directions, and that is this. This is him right here. This post was made 4 days ago, actually. So actually, this was before the game happened against Spain. This is from the account Institut Reich, which is a basically beach volleyball school in Cape Verde. And actually, you can see here, the great Vozinha will not be attending this summer to hit that ball with the Reich Institute. And, because he's going to the World Cup, but yeah, he's actually teaching volleyball in the summer when the league is off. So he's actually teaching kids basically to play beach volleyball. And if you think about it, right, volleyball actually has a lot in common with goalkeeping, right? You're still looking at a ball coming in from different directions. Obviously there is more to it. You're not playing volleyball on the ground, for example, but being able to have that skill of anticipating a ball coming in from far away, even at high speeds, that is a really valuable skill to have as a goalkeeper. And I think that is also part of why he is such he was able to save his shots in the Spain match so well, basically, because he plays volleyball. He's very used to balls coming in from far away, from up top. He's got the sense of being able to, again, anticipate where the balls are coming from and how they're going to land, how quickly they're going to land, at what angle, etc., etc. So yeah, it's interesting little thing that he teaches beach volleyball and on the side, during the summer, but that is part of why I think he did so well as a goalkeeper and how he was able to really charm the world. People have talked about this. He had 55,000 Instagram followers before the match. We are now like a day or two after the match now, or even 3 days. I'm not even sure, but you can see this was posted pretty much immediately after the match. I'm not going to click into it, but you can see here, this was 1.9 million after the match, and now he's up to 13.4 million followers on Instagram. And you can see here, that's him right there. There is a Twitter account, but I suspect that's a fake, so I wouldn't follow it. This is him though. This is his actual real Instagram account, vozinha1. You can follow him there if you're interested. But yeah, that is vozinha and his heroics. But I also want to talk about one other person, and who was for me the second man of the match behind vozinha, and that is Pico Lopez. He officially goes by the name Roberto Lopez, but on the squad he's informally known as Pico Lopez. He is 33. He plays at Shamrock Rovers. Born and raised in Dublin. How the hell did this guy get on the Cape Verdean national team? Well, turns out his father is from Cape Verde, and you've heard the story about LinkedIn now. You know, he got a message in Portuguese, but he didn't speak Portuguese, so he thought it was spam. And then a year later, they sent another one in English, and then he accepted. But that was back in 2019. So this is not a case of those countries like say Haiti or Suriname, who are just desperately trying to recruit different diaspora people right before an important game. No, this isn't like that. Pico Lopez, he has been playing with the Cape Verdean national team for 7 years now, and he is very well integrated. I saw a video, I think like just yesterday, actually was his birthday as of recording this, so happy birthday to Pico Lopez. And he actually spoke in pretty fluent Portuguese, thanking the squad over the years and what they've done together as a national team. And so he recently, I think he only turned 33 yesterday, but he is half Irish, half Cape Verdean. I'm sure he's done both of those nations very, very proud. If you look at his heat map as well, he also really didn't go towards the Spanish side. But you can see his defensive contributions: 16, 3 blocks, 11 clearances, 6 headed clearances, 2 interceptions, and 1 recovery, and 2 out of 2 aerial duels won as well. So, look, he is not an attacking player. He's not an attack-minded player necessarily. But there was one shot at the end. I think it was Danny Olmo at the very end. Well, not very end. I think it was 80-something minutes. Someone might correct me on that. There was one shot that was almost eminently going in. I think it was a pass from lmao, actually. It went to Danny Olmo, but then at the very last second, Pico Lopez slides in and kicks the ball away from him, and his defensive heroics, I think, are just I was going to say second to none, but well, second to vozinha, I suppose. But I also want to quickly talk about some of the other players. Borges, he had that one shot at the end, the header that he had it was a set piece. I think there was a header. It was kind of wide open, frankly. And imagine if that had gone in. But yeah, that was Borges at the end. Sidney Cabral also was really aggressive as well, I think. Livramento did okay. Like I mentioned, he scored the winning goal against Cameroon in qualifying. But in this game, he wasn't really doing much. I think there was one shot that he randomly tried to pull a Kenny McLean, basically, to try to lob a shot at the halfway line, but obviously, Unai Simon easily collected that shot. But in contrast, I think Borges' header could have been a lot more perilous if Borges was able to actually head it in, but he didn't. And the match ended 0-0. The others, I also want to talk about. Willie Semedo was also really good, I thought, personally. I'm not sure why they're giving him 5.9 here. I thought Willie Semedo was good. And Joao Paulo, wow, I had never heard of this guy before, and I actually semi-closely follow the Cape Verdean national team. I followed them since the whole Libya 3-3 thing, and before that, I also started following them around the time when they beat Cameroon. So I followed them for quite a while now, for I want to say 6 months, 7 months at this point, and I never heard of this Joao Paulo guy, but he did really well to continue implementing the tactics that Bubista had implemented for this Cape Verdean national team. And this is another thing I want to talk about. Some people, I don't know if they're joking or not, but they're calling this like the Portugal B team. No, not at all. This is not Portugal. Some of these guys might, be born in Portugal, but ultimately they have Cape Verdean ancestry, and ultimately the tactics that Bubista, the Cape Verdean national team coach, is implementing, these are very different tactics to what you've got going on, whatever you've got going on in Portugal, to lose to draw to DR Congo and stuff like that. I think Joao Paulo actually fit very well into that plan as well, so I'm not sure why it's only a 6.6. It could be higher, but, maybe I'm just nitpicking here. Font mob is a little bit weird. If it were down to me, vozinha would absolutely be a 10 out of 10. I think he's a 9.7 on SofaScore, which is a site that I don't use, but I think that score is a bit more accurate. Speaking of that, though, let's kind of go through Cape Verde's form in general. Looking at the fixtures that they've had. They obviously beat Serbia 3-0, but that was kind of a Serbia C team. Then they went 1-1 against Finland, ironically enough, and then they won on penalties. They lost 4-2 to Chile, actually, which was kind of weird. I'm not really sure what happened there, to be honest. But then here's another one. Again, 1-1 against Egypt, lost on penalties. 0-0 against Iran, lost on penalties. 3-0 against Eswatini. 3-3 Libya Cape Verde, which, if you haven't seen that match, go watch Zealandism's recap of it. I'll leave it in the description. That match was just kind of legendary in African World Cup qualifying, at least for this cycle. Obviously they beat Cameroon 1-0, they beat Mauritius 2-0, 1-1 Georgia, 3-0 Malaysia, 1-1 Malaysia. You see what I'm putting down here? Other than this match against Chile, they do not let in a lot of goals. I think obviously in Libya as well, but Libya was weird anyway. But yeah, other than these two matches, they do not concede a lot of goals. And I think that is really kind of the name of the game here. Attack whenever possible, counter-attack whenever possible. And if that's not possible, then defend with your lives, albeit with discipline. So I also, this is also another reason I don't want to hear this being referred to as haram ball. This is not haram. Look at how many fouls they committed. One out of the entire match, out of 90 minutes, they committed one foul, and it was compared to 10 from the Spanish side, right? The Spanish were being desperate and everything, but the Cape Verdeans were calm, cool, and collected, and they committed only one foul in 90 minutes. This is disciplined, and it is a defensive masterclass from Bubista and from Cape Verde. And this is just, it's just great football to watch. This is not haram ball. This is not football that will have you groaning at the screen, looking at them tackling and being aggressive and time wasting and stuff like that. No. They don't do that. They defend. They are super compact in the middle, and they try to apply as much pressure as possible to their opponent in their own box, so that their opponent can't really do anything even if they do have the ball. And ultimately, let's go back to the match, right? Let's go back to the match against Spain. You can talk about the saves that vozinha made. You can say, okay, those weren't actually that hard to save. But you know why that is? Is because all of the hard-to-save hits were already defended by the rest of the squad. We talk about you don't want your goalkeeper to be the highlight of the team because it reveals like a poor defense or whatever. But no, you need to understand this is Cape Verde playing Spain. They are playing Spain, which is one of the best teams in the world. And you're inevitably going to have a bunch of shots that go in through to goal, right? But vozinha saved those with ease. And why is that? Because all of the hard shots were already blocked and already defended by the likes of Pico Lopes, by the likes of Borges, by the likes of Joao Paulo. These are guys that have defended valiantly, Cindy Cabral, whatever name you name it. These are guys that are defending valiantly so that they are limiting the chances for Spain, for the Spanish players to make any sort of shots that might be hard to save for vozinha. It's an important thing to understand. Like, yes, vozinha did make a bunch of saves, but those saves weren't hard to make because all the hard shots that could have come from Spain were already defended by everyone outfield, right? So that's the thing that I really want to mention here. Vozinha is a hero, sure. Build him a statue in Central Praia or whatever. But this is not just his own work. This is also the fact that they were so compact in the middle in their own box that the Spanish attackers really couldn't do much when you've got so many guys in the box just preventing you from attempting any sort of shot with any sort of real space. And this is very important to note, and this is why, you also had guys like Lamine Yamal, of course, but they were being marked by like 3 or 4 even defenders at the time, but these guys were also very diligently marking just about everyone, really, bar obviously Unai Simon. Everyone on the Spanish side outfield was being marked by someone outfield for Cape Verde, and that is how they managed to prevent any sort of real big chances from Spain really making it into the net. You can see here 2 big chances, 90 minutes, 74% possession, 2.1 xg, 2 big chances, 0 goals. You need to understand just how impressive this is on the part of Cape Verde. A really genuinely defensive masterclass from Bubista. You just kind of have to applaud his work, right? So, yeah, that is it for the analysis part of this. Now let's kind of go back to Cape Verde and see what are the next matches they have, which are, of course, Uruguay and Saudi Arabia. Now, what do I think could happen? I mean, call me delusional. I think they could win both of these. If they defend the way they defended against Spain, there are very, very few teams in this World Cup that can actually score past them, right? I think off the top of my head, maybe France, maybe Norway, but that's kind of about it. And I guess you could say, I was going to say Ivory Coast, but I don't think Ivory Coast could do it either. France, Norway, maybe Senegal or Morocco. Not even Morocco, to be honest. Yeah, France, Norway are so far the only teams I would say has a real chance of scoring past Cape Verde at this very moment. Maybe you could throw USA in there, but maybe I'm being too generous to them. But if they defend this way, they can keep a clean sheet for the entire group stage. I'm not even kidding. And against Uruguay, they are not very defensively sound, at least compared to Spain, of all countries, Could they get a result there? I would tend more towards a 1-1. If they do score, if Uruguay score, I think that's frankly a miracle, but it could be a 0-0. But let me tell you, I wouldn't even be that surprised if Cape Verde got one against Uruguay. And Saudi Arabia, come on, that is totally achievable. Put 2 past them, put 3 past them even, who knows, right? I think Cape Verde has a really good chance of qualifying out of this group into the knockouts on at least 4 points, if not even more than that. They could get 7 points, they could get 5 points, they could top the group. Well, you could you even imagine saying that prior to the tournament? They drew with Spain. They now are capable really of doing just about anything in the group stage, at least. And when they get to the knockouts, who's to say they can't, penalty shootout their way into the round of 16 or even into the quarterfinals. That would be an insane achievement for a team as small as Cape Verde, for a country as small as Cape Verde. But I think it's totally doable, you guys. These are two sides who are not nearly as offensively minded as Spain. So why couldn't Cape Verde, generate something on them? Heck, if Cape Verde could generate a legit header against Spain, why couldn't they put a ball past Uruguay? Why couldn't they put a ball past Saudi Arabia? This is totally doable, you guys. I think, you need to stop thinking about how they looked like prior to the tournament and how the global perception is for them as debutants, and start thinking about what they've done, and based on that performance, what they could do. Of course, everything could change in the next round, in the next match day. Everything could change drastically, but I'm just not seeing it at the moment. The name of the game for Cape Verde is to keep the goals low, to keep the squad compact in their own box when they're defending, and when a ball comes out, get Livramento or someone like that to run to the other side and put a ball in the net. And that works. It worked with Cameroon, and I'm sure that this could absolutely work against Saudi Arabia and a horribly down bad Uruguay. Am I saying they're going to win against Uruguay? Not necessarily. Let's keep our expectations low. But I wouldn't be, I wouldn't faint if it happened. I would be very happy for Cape Verde, of course, but I don't think it's an impossibility. So, and they could absolutely win against Saudi Arabia. So I think they are absolutely going to qualify out of this with at least 4 points. And who knows what's going to happen when we get to the knockouts, right? The groups are so unpredictable, with Spain having drawn with Cape Verde, Portugal having drawn with DR Congo, Switzerland having drawn with Qatar. It's suddenly all up in the air, and this is what you love about the World Cup, because everything can just be thrown off balance with one game alone. And I think this is one of those games. This is a game that is going to go down in Cape Verdean history as one of the greatest achievements, greatest footballing achievements, greatest sporting achievements of all time. And I'm here to witness history. And I think they will continue to create history going into this World Cup and beyond. And I think they will look really, really good going into the next AFCON. I have no doubt in mind, at least right now, things could happen between now and then. But I think right now, going on current form, they are looking really hot going into the qualifiers for the next AFCON. And maybe they'll be able to do something there. So we'll just have to see what happens. In the meantime, we have the next match against Uruguay for Cape Verde to look forward to. And then after that, we also have the game against Saudi Arabia, obviously, which could be an easy win for Cape Verde. I can't believe I'm saying this. But again, their name of the game is to keep the score low, keep the squad, keep the outfield players compact, extremely compact in the box, and defend with their lives, but with discipline and with calm. So that is about it for this video. I hope you enjoyed my commentary. I wanted to do a video that really focuses more on the Cape Verdean perspective of this and why this means so much for Cape Verde. And, some people will call it Cabo Verde. I just say Cape Verde because that's what I'm used to. But I wanted to make a video focusing on Cape Verde's perspective of this match versus Spain's perspective, which is that they're not really going to take much out of this, except, maybe don't underestimate your opponents, even if they are a random island nation of about 500,000 people. So that's going to do it for this video. I hope you enjoyed my commentary. Like this video if you did enjoy, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss my upcoming content, including what I'm going to do is a recap of Match Day 2 and possibly some watch-alongs of matches for Match Day 2 or Match Day 3. I'll have to see how my schedule pans out that way. We'll have to see what happens. I'll be tweeting about it on my 2 Twitter accounts now. You can follow me on those as well. I'll leave links in the description. As always, hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you next time.